My name is Adriana Knouf. I'm an artist, writer, and xenologist, and I'm presenting my project, Amateur Lithopanspermia. And this is a project that engages with queer and trans futurities, decolonial approaches to outer space, and specifically travel to Mars, and non-human approaches to space travel. So my practice these days is very much related to how we think about outer space, and especially developing new queer and trans imaginaries for outer space. So I grew up in a very rural part of the United States in the state of Iowa. The town I lived in was 600 people. And I really didn't feel like I fit in. Maybe it was a budding understanding of queerness or transness. Maybe it was just the fact that I was interested in different things. So I would go into my backyard at night with a flashlight and point it up to the stars and turn it on and off like Morse code to try and signal to extraterrestrials to take me away, because I felt like outer space would be a more hospitable environment to me. So the title of the project that I'm doing for starts is called Amateur Lithopanspermia, which is quite a mouthful. But to break it down, panspermia is the idea that life originated potentially on another planet, was ejected into outer space, traveled for hundreds of thousands or millions of years, and then landed here on Earth, sort of potentially seeding life here. And the litho part is the idea that the life was traveling in a rock, like a meteorite, perhaps. So this is the Agpalilik meteorite, which was discovered in 1963 in Greenland, Kalalit Nunat. And so for me, what's interesting about this is the fact that it was brought back here to Denmark, the colonial power, and was sort of taken from its environment and from sort of the indigenous people on whose land the meteorite was found. And so for me, this relates to the project, which is thinking about how we are describing Mars as a place to be colonized and setting up colonies there. And we're sort of replicating the same things that we did in the past with sort of all the horrible consequences of that. And so I want to try and push against that and think of Mars as a place not to be used for human purposes, just sort of taken its resources, but rather as a place potentially for other types of organisms like lichen. And lichen are very interesting because they grow almost everywhere here on Earth. They're very resilient organisms. They potentially live for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And in fact, there's been some research done by the European Space Agency that shows that lichen can actually exist in the outer space environment. So they're actually a potentially perfect organism to be used within panspermia. So for me, it's very important that everyone has access to doing things in outer space. So we have built this spacecraft to NASA and current spacecraft specifications, but we did it without clean rooms, using just off-the-shelf materials and so forth. And it's really showing how travel and engagements with outer space could be different. It's entirely possible. And for me, outer space really needs to be a place that's not just for governments or large commercial entities, but is also available to the amateur, to the artist, and so forth. The artwork that I developed as part of Amateur Lithopanspermia is called TX2 MOONSHADOW. And this is a piece that has a number of parts to it. So the first part is what you see behind me, which is a solar sail spacecraft, and cubesat, which is a small satellite. Additionally, I'm developing a rock that I'm creating out of simulated Martian soil that would take lichen-human hybrids to Mars on a potential future space journey. And I'm also developing a video that draws on found footage, documentation of the project, and other material to engage with some of the more theoretical aspects of the project. So sending lichens to Mars is relating to this history of panspermia. Solar sails is thinking about a much slower approach to space travel. And all of these things come together to think about new queer and trans futurities in outer space. What I'm hoping with this project is that people who come and see it and engage with sort of all the materials of it understand that how we approach outer space can be done very differently from the ways that it currently exists. And so I think it's really important that we question this terminology that we use and develop new ways of approaching outer space activities, ones that don't rely so much on exploitation of resources or claiming territory and so forth. And so the project, with its thinking about non-human approaches to space travel, tries to make manifest these new decolonial possibilities. And we can sort of dream again of different types of life and existence within the outer space environment, which then will reflect on new possibilities for living here on Earth.